Kenya's energy regulator has cancelled a petroleum products import license for the country's main dealers association. The regulator, that's the Energy Regulatory Commission, has accused its members of intimidating other transporters as part of a strike against a new fuel tax. Now, in protest against those taxes, the Kenya Independent Petroleum Dealers Association had blocked fuel depots in Nairobi and in Mombasa, leading to fuel shortages in most parts of the country. Now, the fuel tax is part of the government bid to finance key priorities, while narrowing a fiscal deficit that could jeopardize a deal with the International Monetary Fund. Now, as you have seen, there are reports of fuel shortages across parts of Kenya. In fact, earlier today, the High Court stopped the application of 16% VAT, value-added tax, on petroleum products, with a hearing date for that particular case being set for the 12th of September. Today, though, we're still seeing reports of panic buying and shortages across the country. But all of that leads to a very simple question. How did this East African economy get here? Thing is, to answer that, this is a story that goes all the way back to 2011. At the time, Kenya had a balance of payments crisis and the shilling had fallen very rapidly to the dollar. This is the relevant chart for that particular year. It moved from just over 80 shillings to the dollar all the way to 107. Now, a fall of that magnitude, over 33%, spooked the authorities. So other than the usual responses like raising interest rates, they went to the IMF looking for help to set things straight. Now, the finance minister at the time was Uhuru Kenyatta. The central bank governor was one Njuguna Ndung'u. Now, in the letter of intent to the IMF, this is just a small part of it, they said, and I'm quoting them here, "We will modernize our VAT legislation to help improve administration and compliance," end of quote. So the IMF looked at the plans, agreed to it, and Kenya ended up with a 3-year, $784 million loan to pad out its foreign currency reserves. That resulted in an entirely new value-added tax law being written, debated, passed by legislators in 2013. So at this point, you're probably saying, this is a done deal, right? Not quite. You see, when this bill was passed, legislators had an interesting clause inserted into it. They took a range of petroleum products, exempted them from VAT for 3 years. Now, that exemption should have ended in August 2016. But at the time, there was, well, a general election coming up in another year. So legislators kicked the can down the road. They put in another 2-year extension to that particular exemption. You see where the problem is building up here? The thing is, since legislators planned this relatively poorly, the exemption ended and they were scrambling to put in a last-minute one, this one up to 2020, 2 days before it was supposed to end. Now, that exemption will not be taking effect for another 2 weeks, and that is assuming that the president, the same man who kickstarted this tax review process all those years ago, assents to the finance bill. In addition to all of that, here's why Kenyans are really so ticked off by all of this. A litre of gasoline today has no less than 8 taxes and levies imposed on it. Now, if you take all of that and put it all together, 43% of what Kenyans are paying at the pump is going straight into the hands of the government. And that really is a short answer as to why Kenya is in the middle of a fuel crisis.